I need to apologize for the walk-up music that they just surprised me with. Thank you, Eric. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Larry. Welcome to the 5th version of TMC Demo Day. We have an incredible 18 medical device companies that you're going to see in a minute. We've long awaited this day. Some of them are just coming up front now. So also, this is a webcast. We're starting this out. Last time we had over 3,000 people attend through webcast. I think we'll blow that number out. I think we'll end up with 3 billion people on webcast. I have a few really exciting things. My name is Bill McKeon. I'm the president and CEO of the Texas Medical Center, and wanted to share just a couple of things about the space that you're in here is just one component, and there's some really exciting announcements that we have for you this morning. Just to share a little bit about the medical center, the numbers, every time I show this slide, it's outdated. So 10 million patients that we are privileged to treat in this campus. It's the largest medical city in the world. We have $3 billion in projects underway. It's the largest medical city in the world, and it will grow 10% in the next 3 years. It's pretty incredible. It is the 8th largest business district. I'm not including Houston. I think we just lost sound. We might have to go to the hand. So it's a pretty special place, but I think what I'm always amazed about is until people here and see it. Excuse me, we're improvising. Here you go. How does that work? Better? All right. So until people come and see this, it's a pretty remarkable place, and it's just getting better with the additions that you're to see. You're going to hear, obviously, some of you will be here tomorrow for the exciting announcement of the Center for Device Innovation at TMC. This is J&J, our great partners here at J-Labs at TMC, are doubling down on Houston and Texas with one of the most unique places. It's a one of a kind. It's the first time in the world that this Center for Device Innovation, led up by Dr. Billy Cohn, which is going to be incredible. This came out of our strategic plan. This was not a mistake. We had a strategic plan, and these are the 5 institutes that we come up with, innovation being one of them, health policy. You're going to hear great announcements in the coming year about the Clinical Research Institute that's underway. We do more clinical research on this campus than anywhere in the world, yet we do it in a fragmented way across 29 IRBs. We'll be launching the TMC IRB and a clinical research platform like no other place in the world, where industry could come and actually have access to all 10 million patients with signing one document and really having our member institutions participating in a global way. So that's really exciting. This is part of this cookie factory that you're in. We started with TMCx, then we built X+, which is co-working space. Then we built J-Labs at TMC right next to us, so we really had a place for both digital health, med device, and life science companies here. And you'll see tomorrow the Center for Device Innovation opening, so I don't want to get ahead. We have AT&T here with the Foundry, so it's really exciting to see how this now in real estate, the largest life science incubator accelerator in the country, and it's just going. It's going fast. Now, one of the things that we've been working on for some time, we've all talked about, it's great to have these places, but as startup, I've had many startup companies, money is the fuel for those. And so I'm delighted to finally announce the first TMC Venture Fund, which is officially launched today. And the only reason this is possible, this is our board, our chairman, Holcomb Croswell, Downey Bridgewater, our vice chairman, and our board members I have to tell you, in the investment that they blessed off on investing, we've spent $69 million in capital already, and we're still going. And now we're launching a $25 million fund, the TMC Venture Fund. And in a minute, we've already invested in some really incredible companies that we're going to tell you about in just a minute. So we hope this is just the beginning. Obviously, $25 million can't carry all of these great companies forward, so we're hoping that industry, my prediction is you're going to see other great brand names of venture community realize that East Coast and West Coast is fairly picked over, and there's some really great things happening here in Texas and really throughout the mid part of this country, that we think this is the third coast for life sciences. We're going to claim our rightful role, and this is just another reason, but I'm very grateful to the board. I'm also so let's tell you about how this works. $25 million fund. We accept applications on a rolling basis, and then we come together twice a year. Now, a little bit of that, and I don't want you to think it's only companies that are in TMCx or only companies in J-Labs and in the future Center for Device Innovation. It's really, but they have to have a nexus to the Texas Medical Center. They could be a company out of Houston, the digital health company that comes out of Station Houston or some other place. So but we want to build this ecosystem. We don't want companies just fly in from another part of the country, grab money and disappear. We are really committed to building out the Texas as a life science destination. So that's how it works, pretty straightforward. These are the pieces. When we look at these companies, we do diligence on them. We stir them up to our investment committee that you're going to meet some members of in just a minute. And then each of these companies that make the cut come in and pitch to them. And I tell you, it was really exciting to see the quality of the companies we had. It was difficult to make the selection, but we did, and you're going to meet those companies in a minute. Here's the investment committee, and what I love is these are people that many of you know already that have put their heart and soul and money into this ecosystem. They're well known. They're some of the stars across the medical center. So you're seeing a lot of people from Baylor College of Medicine, MD Anderson, J&J involved in this, Larry Lawson, great entrepreneur. So it's really a great mix of people on this advisory. They do this on their own volition. They don't make any money. We do feed them and give them some wine at times. But I can't tell you how much I appreciate this team's work to really give up their time, and they're already oversubscribed, very busy people, to really do this, to really contribute to this ecosystem. So, and this is a venture strategy team that actually do a lot of the heavy lifting before us. So when those applications come in, a lot of the diligence and work is done by this really talented group of people that are made up from both the Innovation Institute and the TMC strategy team. So special appreciation to them that do really the hard work. So let us introduce to you the TMC Venture Fund portfolio companies.
My name is Jake Kriegel. I'm CEO of Alleviate Medical. The medical device that we're developing is a minimally invasive transcatheter system targeting congestive heart failure. One of the reasons why it's so hard to treat is that it's many different conditions that are all kind of converging around this elevated left atrial pressure. We come in through a 4mm puncture in the groin and deliver our device up into the heart, where an expandable blade is used to create a precise connection to join the left and the right atrium. And the key here is that we don't leave anything behind in the heart. That's a major advantage that can really change the treatment landscape for this disease.
CNS Dose is an early stage growth company, and we fast track finding the right antidepressant with patients' genetics. Antidepressants are the mainstay of treatment. They only work about half the time, and they're prescribed through trial and error. For the drug to work, it's got to go in your mouth, and then it's got to get to your brain, right? So the two hurdles that we look at is the liver, and then what's called the blood-brain barrier. What we do is we look at liver genetics and brain genetics. Taking that liver and blood-brain barrier genetic information, we really can understand what dose does an individual need for the drug to get into their brain. We boil this down into a one-page report, which provides guidance to the doctor and the patient about the medications that the science suggests should be used and what dose that should occur at.
Medable is transforming healthcare by unlocking new research insights and optimizing patient outcomes through mobile and analytics. We founded Medable to enable research to happen from mobile phones. Things like the air quality, the UV index, how far we're walking. Without leveraging mobile, this type of information is never collected in a research study. By using Medable, researchers can capture this really important information about patients and participants. Now we're doing that on clinical care, so doctors can take care of patients by leveraging mobile.
Joining the TMCx program has been really special because we've actually had a true opportunity to interact with a lot of surgeons from different institutions and gain the support and insights that only a place like TMCx can offer us. We've got a great lead institution that we work with, but it wasn't until we came here to Houston that we were really able to expand our network and really get the surgeon feedback that's going to drive this technology forward and make it a success.
Non-Invasics is a company that's commercializing technology that will permit better insights into the amount of oxygen going to premature infants' brains. Everybody's seen pulse oximeters. You put a probe on your finger and you get a number on a screen. That doesn't work for veins. It doesn't work for deeper structures. With optoacoustics, we use the same kind of light, the same wavelengths, but we use a pulsed laser light, and each pulse of laser light generates what in effect is an ultrasound signal. We're currently raising our Series A funding to build a manufacturing prototype that meets the criteria that the FDA would provide clearance for. It's very exciting. It's very exciting.
Yeah, please. So I'd like to ask some of those members of the investment committee to come to the stage. Larry, others that are here in the room. I know some of them. Tom, I know, is here. I think Juliana's here. Eric's here. Come on up. Don't be shy. So, and we also, so first, a huge round of applause for these people that are dedicating them time. So what we'd like to do is actually, in order, invite up the leaders of each of these companies to come up. So we're going to start with Jacob Kriel from Alleviate.
Thank you so much. You know, we've been fortunate to be part of the Texas Medical Center community for over a year now, and we've really been able to see this ecosystem grow in ways that we couldn't have even imagined. And this fund is really the next step for us as a company, but also the next step, I think, for the ecosystem here. So thank you all so very much. We are very appreciative.
Next up, John Gunn from Brightseed. Come on up here, John.
Hello all. The Brightseed team is really proud to be part of the inaugural venture fund class. We were on this stage last year at this time at Demo Day as a part of X3, and we've grown so much in one short year, and we're excited to bring our smart surgical technology into the operating room next year with the assistance of many of the doctors and patients here at Texas Medical Center. So couldn't be happier to be a part of this community. Thank you so much.
Next one is Harris R. from CNS Dose.
Thank you. Thank you. Delighted to accept the money here today. Thank you very much to the TMC Venture Fund. I mean, for us as an Australian company, TMC has given us a number of transformational opportunities. The first is just coming here and being part of the Accelerator. That was transformational for us. Engaging a number of the health systems here with our technology has also been transformational, and now this is just another example of the sort of transformational benefit for us that we get from being here at TMC, and I'm proudly now living in Houston as a representative that we want to be here for the long term, so thank you.
Next up is Colin Madden from Medable.
Yeah, thanks to Bill and thanks to the investment committee. I'm obviously not Michelle Longmire, but I'm happy to be here. Michelle actually had a speaking engagement in Boston this morning. So the numbers that we saw up on the screen are amazing. And what Medable is excited about is just the opportunity to contribute to the already great work that is happening around clinical care and clinical research at TMC. So thanks very much.
And our next one is Graham Randall with non-invasives. Come on up here, Graham.
Thank you to Bill and the investment committee and to Texas Medical Center and TMCx. Our experience with TMCx was an important period for our company. We were transitioning from a research-oriented company to a commercialization-oriented company. We got a lot of guidance through the program here, and so this is a fantastic capstone. The competitive advantage of TMCx, I've always said, is the access to the hospitals. It's always been, a little weakness in that we don't have a whole lot of investment in life sciences here in Houston, and so this fills a gap. And so this is the missing link, I think, for a real winner. And so I'm as excited as I've ever been for Houston and the life sciences startup community. Thank you, guys.
For another hand for our investment committee, thank you very much. That way. So now it's time. I mean, this was a little surprise to our program and hopefully a pleasant surprise for this community. So we're really excited to see these companies grow and nurture. And I would say this is our initial investment. It may not be our final investment in these companies as we go along, but I really encourage all of you in the venture community to align by us, side of us, because these companies are going to need your help down the road, and hopefully it will long contribute to this really improving health, and that's been our mission all along. Now to the X5 companies. It's, we're going to be here someday saying X20 and X30, but here's a video to give you an overview of these amazing 18 medical device companies.
The Texas Medical Center is the largest medical center on planet Earth. If you can take the second largest and the third largest, combine them, they still don't touch the Texas Medical Center.
What we have in our TMCx is this backdrop of the largest construct of patients, physicians, students anywhere in the world. And what better place than the Texas Medical Center to really validate new technologies.
So we got X5, our medical device accelerator class. Whether or not you're a company that's only been out of the gate for 6 months and raised a couple $100,000, or you've been around for 6 years and you've raised $20 million, every single one of those companies gets something out of the program.
Being a part of the TMCx cohort is a key to the medical center. The access that we're given to these world-renowned facilities and hospitals, the peer network and the advising network, it's just an opportunity that cannot be replicated anywhere else but here.
Just in the last week, we've met with physicians at Houston Methodist, at Texas Children's, MD Anderson. That validation that we are a company that was vetted by TMCx has opened the doors.
You have a community that can come in and guide you in any niche area.
They told us the insider look, those kind of minutiae that you don't get out of business school.
A lot of the things that took us years to figure out, either on our own or with consultants, I could have gotten 90% of the way by going through this program.
The first 3-week boot camp is really educational, especially if you're not from a medical background.
This is usually a luxury for people who are outside the healthcare system. Like, we are engineers, we don't have connections to physician networks.
As soon as you have a prototype and you want to get physician feedback on this, TMC is the perfect place to be.
Advisors, clinicians, folks who can mentor us through the whole process from very early stage to later stage.
The level of expertise in terms of developing medical devices is unparalleled.
I've met with AT&T with their mobile solutions. We've also been using the J&J facilities for rapid prototyping.
When you can just walk to a high density of critical care hospitals, it really makes a difference in how you get to talk to clients and get feedback on your device.
The connections with the medical center and the collaborations that we are beginning to form are going to be not just transformative for us at this moment, but will be taking us through the entire path to commercialization.
As I get to know people in Texas, it's the can-do attitude, right? People in Texas get things done.
As a startup, you face challenge every day. I'm very appreciated that I don't feel alone here.
I'm immersed in an environment where you have kindred spirits. All the other companies share this passion for innovation, for making a difference, for growing things.
It's just fun. It's fun being around other startups.
As a cohort, we're all really developing and improving each other.
You can ask anyone in the group, and they've got ideas, they've got previous experience in research and different technologies that we may not have the background in.
So it brings about the best in a company. That's where this ecosystem plays a critical role.
It's a community, and it's friendships that I think we're going to take forward the rest of our lives.
TMC is a young ecosystem, and even in the time I've been here, we're starting to see some of those early success stories.
We've got to get products out on the market. We've got to advance science, and an ecosystem like this is the right place to get that innovation started.
To see these resources and this commitment right next to the largest collection of doctors on the planet, TMCx is gonna produce some incredible things.
You can satisfy these surgeons, these oncologists, or these radiologists. You can go anywhere in the world with your product.
If we're successful and if they're successful, products get out there on the market that can save lives.
Did that seem like a, whoa. Did that seem like a 5-minute wait for that walk-up music? It felt like an eternity back there. So this is all leading to the build-up. The companies are coming, I swear, for the presentations. But I do want to take a second just to thank Bill, thank the board. This investment fund announcement, I mean, this was a lot of work, a lot of time coming. There's so many people to thank within TMC, outside of TMC. As Bill said, this is not going to solve all of the capital requirements that the companies here in the Houston ecosystem need, but we think it's an important step forward. Obviously, we've been working on it a while because not only we just announced the fund, but we announced the first 5 investments, and I think those 5 companies are great examples of what's come out of the Houston ecosystem and what's come to the Houston ecosystem from across the country, and I think those 5 companies are really going to, again, be great examples, so we're really excited about it. Before we sort of kick off with the companies, I always like to give an overview kind of the demographics and this cohort and what they've gone through for the program. So you're about to see 18 of the most cutting edge medical device companies present here shortly, and I think they'll blow you away with the technologies that they're developing to save lives, to change lives. It's really some amazing stuff. You're gonna see some really passionate entrepreneurs are working. These 18 companies were selected from about 200 applicants that we received, not just from companies coming out of Houston, coming out of the medical center. We do have a bunch of those. But again, now these applications are coming from all over the world. And so just for them to be the 18 selected companies out of about 200 applicants we saw, they're already the cream of the crop. And the progress that they've made through this program and what they've been able to do, I think will be evident when they present to you here shortly. We do have a mix of Texas companies, of national companies. So we do have 6 local companies, companies that have come out of Texas Children's, that have come out of Baylor College of Medicine, U of H, and other technologies. So these are the member institutions that support these companies, but it's also the $2 billion of innovative research funding that goes on here in this ecosystem, which is generating these innovations that are becoming startup companies and then working on those products to bring them back to our patients. So very excited. The local ecosystem is alive and well, and innovation is alive and well. But we're also pulling amazing companies from all over the country. I said this number before, and I can't remember what it is for this cohort, but in our digital health cohort, we had 20% of the applicants were from Silicon Valley. And that was really impressive. And when we ask the companies, how did you hear about us and why did you apply, the two most common answers were, one, we talked to companies that have gone through your program, they raved about it, they got a lot out of it, and they told us we need to go there. So that's good, it means we're doing something right with the program. The other most common answer was our investors told us we need to go there. And so that's good too. And I think that's a testament to the program, but it's also because we do have the biggest medical center in the country with the 21 hospitals, 58 organizations. If you've got a healthcare company, I don't care if it's digital health, medical device, diagnostics, what better place are you going to connect with key opinion leaders, be able to develop your product, ultimately pilot it, and convert it to sales that can bring the product to market. And we've also been really impressed with the international exposure. And there's a number of folks in the audience today and that serve as advisors that represent international delegations where we have partnerships in the UK, in Australia, in Denmark as well, and more. And so we're proud to have 3 international companies in this cohort as well. The program itself, it's pretty rigorous. There's other accelerators out there, and I'm not going to talk negative about anybody else's program or anything too, but there's one thing that we believe in, I think philosophically, that's really important. It's kind of like when they do the sweepstakes. They probably don't do sweepstakes anymore. I'm kind of dating myself, but when they do it, they say must be present to win, right? And we sort of feel that way too. So, it's not about logging on and watching a video once a week and that's an accelerator. For us, you got to be here. Be here for the curriculum, be here to engage with the advisors and mentors, be here so that the companies can interact and engage with each other, be here to build the relationships with the medical center, with the key opinion leaders there, face-to-face, building those relationships, and we'll talk about what they've been able to accomplish in the 4.5 months of that program. The program starts off with a 3-week boot camp. It's all day, every day, and into the night. It's a pretty intensive 3-week program. Then we give them a little bit of a break, and they can come back. We do about a week on every 3 weeks after that. One of the highlights of our program, aside from the huge medical center that we have and plugging them in, it's our advisor network. And so just by show of hands, how many of you are advisors in our program here? There's a lot of you in the audience I recognize. For those, and thank you all really so much. So we had 140 different advisors engaged, meaning they were teaching sessions, they were doing office hours, they were on panels, they were working with these companies, 140 different folks. We have over 200, I think, official advisors. For those of you in the audience who didn't raise your hand, and I suspect many of you have a network, have expertise, and may have an interest in becoming an advisor to our future classes of companies, come see me afterwards, shoot me an email, and we'll get you involved, because it really is a huge differentiating factor. Our advisors span regulatory and legal and marketing and engineering and clinical and investors, and we sort of hand-pick them and partner them with the companies who have particular questions in those areas. And again, it's made a ton of difference for the progress that the companies have made. Some of the statistics for the companies: they've been able to raise a lot of money, some before they got here, some while they were here, in terms of the capital. But one of the key things that we talked about in the last program and this one, and we just see increasing over and over again, is engagement while they're here. So I'll direct your attention to the 480 engagements. So this is more than just like, hey, we sent an email, or we had a meeting, or we had a phone call. These are ongoing discussions, right, with surgeons in the hospital, with CIOs, with some of the things that are leading to, hopefully, pilots, leading to people being added to the advisory board, the board of directors, leading to investments. So this, I think we calculated, it's 26.6 engagements per company while they were here in the program, which is a really meaningful number. And again, in 4.5 months, that's pretty cool. What that's translated to already is 43 signed agreements, which is, I didn't do the math on this one, but it's not quite 3, somewhere between 2 and 3 signed agreements for companies, right? To be able to do preclinical testing, clinical testing, or even purchase and sales with the hospitals. And again, 2.5 signed agreements per company in 4.5 months. Some of you may not know this, but hospitals don't move very quickly in general for those kinds of things. So in 4.5 months, 2.5 signed agreements per company is pretty good. And again, with these ongoing engagements, we think that that number is going to go up, even after today. So that's also very exciting. I just want to thank all of the advisors. I can't do it all personally, but we did put you all on the slides here so you can see it. Again, can't thank you enough. You guys make the difference in the program. You guys make the difference for these companies, helping them jump through those hoops, jump over those hurdles, solve their problems, and just really get their product more refined and bring it closer to the patients where this can benefit them. So thank you all so much. Also to the companies that are part of our ecosystem as well, whether it's the law firms that contribute and participate in our legal luncheons and office hours on topics of intellectual property, regulatory, corporate formation, financing, or whatever, a lot of the different consulting groups, design groups that have worked with our companies on their pitch decks and on their presentations. Really just cannot thank you all enough, really all of the list of advisors and companies. And the member institutions themselves. So with the 21 hospitals that make up the Texas Medical Center, we had 13 of them. So when we have those signed agreements, 13 of those hospitals were heavily engaged in this cohort and were participating and had those signed agreements. So thank you all very much. That is such a key part of why the companies come here, hoping to engage, hoping to get those agreements, and it's happening. And so we're seeing the recognition from these hospitals that they're okay looking at these younger companies, these earlier stage companies. That's where the innovations are occurring that they have to be open to, and they're willing to engage and bring them in their doors to hopefully solve some of their problems, which is great. All right. So that ends my part of the show. Now we get to the good show, which is the companies getting ready to pitch. So we've broken this up into 2 sections. We'll have a little bit of a break halfway through. You can find the list of the companies, I think, in your Run a Show in your program as well. So we'll have a little video where they kind of introduce themselves. Companies will come up on stage, and if they follow directions we've given them, they'll stick to 4-minute pitches. We'll see. You can time them yourself or look back there. I like to shame them. But these will be rapid fire. We'll have a break. And then also at the end of the program, obviously we have a lot of networking time as well. So I encourage you all to stick around. The companies will be at their booths. We have food, drink, and everything. So stick around. It's going to be a great program. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you all for the support of the program. Thank you for supporting these companies. And enjoy the program.
My name's David Narrow. I'm the CEO of Sanaflow. We're a Hopkins spin-out company bringing ultrasound into surgical applications, and our first product enables nurses to detect blood clots after surgery that are at high risk for a blood clot. The really critical part of the surgery is where they connect blood vessels together surgically, and in doing so, you're at a particularly high risk for a clot forming while the patient's still in the hospital. So we came up with a solution which involves one of these little bioabsorbable markers, goes in right underneath the blood vessel, and then over time it would degrade into natural elements in your body. And then we've developed a software package that integrates into an ultrasound product, so it's easy for anybody to use at the bedside.
Here comes the, y'all don't really want it like that. Yeah. Here comes the, no, here comes the, oh, here comes the, y'all don't really want it like that.
At Sanaflow, we empower nurses to detect catastrophic blood clots after surgery. This is an example of a patient that has a defect due to cancer. What surgeons will do is they'll take autologous tissue from another part of the body, such as the arm. They'll isolate that tissue with the blood vessels that supply it. Then they'll use that tissue to reconstruct the patient's face. Now, as you can imagine, this is a life-changing surgery that restores form and also function. But with any good story, there's a catch. In up to 15% of these cases, a non-preventable blood clot will form in the immediate postoperative period. The good news is if we detect the clot early enough, we rush back into the operating room, remove the clot, and we restore healthy blood flow to that downstream tissue. Unfortunately, due to late detection of these blood clots, half of the time it's going to be too late. This newly transplanted tissue dies, must be cut out, and thrown away. Not only is this a catastrophe for the patient, but for the hospital as well, as they are fully financially responsible for the implications of these failures, which can be up to $500,000 per instance. At Hopkins, our team developed a solution that enables people to detect these blood clots. Right now, ultrasound cannot be used after these surgeries for two main reasons, despite the fact that it is the best solution for detecting these blood clots. First, the nonlinear orientation of these blood vessels actually prohibits you from collecting accurate data. And second, the nurses that are tasked with monitoring these patients on a routine basis haven't been trained to use ultrasound even more feasible. At Sanaflow, we developed Sanaflow to put ultrasound in the hands of nurses. Our SonaMark device goes in during surgery underneath the blood vessels to first align the vessels in a linear fashion to enable accurate readings. Then we have a proprietary manufacturing technique that enhances the ultrasound visibility of the implant, making it very easy for a novice user to locate. Our custom ultrasound product automatically recognizes this marker and gives the user not only a visual indication of what's happening inside these blood vessels, but we can quantify flow trends so we can detect the clot as soon as it forms to get back into surgery and remove that clot. Here's some of our in vivo data showing our EchoMark implanted into swine, where you have clear arterial flow on the right rather, and venous flow on the other vessel. Once a clot's induced, you can see the veins entirely collapsed. The artery and the flow is going in both directions, clearly disrupted by such flow rate. What we can now do is get back in the operating room and remove that clot before that downstream tissue dies. By addressing markets in plastic, transplant, and vascular surgery, we have a $700 million US market and a $2 billion global opportunity ahead of us. Our business model is to monetize primarily on our consumable SonaMark device, and we also offer our capital ultrasound as well. To date, we just secured our $3.5 million Series A, which includes investments from New Gen Capital and Gray Sky Venture Partners. We have 3 patents and are submitting our 510K in a couple weeks and will be commercial early next year. Additionally, we've had $2 million in research support from both the NIH and the National Science Foundation. My name is David Narrow, and I have a background in biomedical engineering and healthcare consulting, but back up in Baltimore, I'm joined by 10 all-stars in surgery, engineering, and science to make this a reality for patients. If you're a nurse or you know a nurse, come find me. We'd love to have you test our technology and pay you a little bit to do it. If you're a surgeon, we'd love to get this going in a clinical study. And then finally, if you're an investor, come talk to me. You know the deal. Basically, what really encouraged me to start this company was something that we heard at Grand Rounds at Johns Hopkins. And a leading microsurgery expert came in to give a talk, and what he ended his presentation with was, as a microsurgeon, you're only as good as your flat monitoring technique. At Sanaflow, we deliver early detection so that surgeons can deliver better outcomes. Thank you.
I'm Michael Phillips, co-founder of Vena Medical, and we're working on making intravascular navigation faster, easier, and safer. And we're doing this by providing a forward-viewing imaging catheter. There's about 4 million intravascular procedures performed each year. We're really focusing on ones with very complex navigation or where physicians really want to check over their work. We're using bleeding edge fiber optics and a saline flush to allow physicians to literally see inside veins and arteries.
All I do is win, 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 no matter what. Got money on my mind, I can never get enough. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up. And they stay there.
4 million intravascular procedures performed each year in the US, and they all follow the same framework. First, the physician must gain vascular access by passing a thin guide wire into patients' blood vessels. Next, they snake this wire around patient vasculature in order to get to their target location. Once there, this is where the actual intervention is performed. This can range from placing a stent to treating liver cancer. And this is really the goal of these procedures. But how are physicians navigating these wires around patient anatomy? Fluoroscopy, a 2D, pulse-based X-ray imaging technique that uses an iodine-based contrast. And there's 3 major problems with this form of navigation. The first is navigational delays. When a physician encounters tortuous anatomy, the 2-dimensional nature of fluoroscopy is simply no longer sufficient. In the example of a fork in the road, the physician may know that it's there, but they don't know what angle the artery is branching off at. And guiding these wires into positions can take anywhere from 15 to 45 minutes. Next is the iodine-based contrast, which is toxic for your kidneys. And what that means for 7% of patients that receive these forms of therapeutics is contrast-induced acute kidney injury, an additional $8,000 cost to the healthcare system. And finally, the radiation. In long procedures with complicated navigational challenges, this can mean radiation burns for the patient, And for the physician, the one that's in there 8 hours a day, this means increased rates of cataracts, leukemia, and left hemisphere brain cancer. And 2 years ago, when my father received one of these procedures, these are the exact problems that his physicians ran into. The two-dimensional nature was no longer sufficient, and they ended up having to do a much more invasive follow-up procedure that resulted in a 9-inch scar and a much longer recovery time. So that's why we created the Vena microcatheter. It's a forward-viewing imaging microcatheter that uses bleeding-edge fiber optics and a saline flush to provide physicians with the point of view from directly inside blood vessels, augmenting fluoroscopy. It sees inside as if the blood wasn't even there, provides a continuous, photorealistic video feed that allows physicians to quickly navigate bifurcations and tortuous anatomy. All the while, no contrast necessary. This tool would have completely eliminated my father's follow-up procedure. In order to get this into the hands of physicians, we'll be using a razor blade model, selling our endoscopy card at cost and our one-time use Vena microcatheter for a marginally higher cost than a typical workhorse microcatheter. We currently compete against several different types of devices, including high-end guide wires like Boston Scientific's Fathom, which doesn't allow you to see where you're going, specialty microcatheters such as Terumo Fine Duo, which is expensive and still doesn't allow you to see where you're going, and other intravascular imaging technologies such as IVUS and OCT. However, none of these devices or technologies provide the forward-viewing navigational perspective of the Vena microcatheter. And we were able to prove that last week when we were at Texas Heart Institute's Cardiovascular Research Lab, where Dr. Billy Cohen performed our very first animal trial, which was a resounding success. And we're more than happy to show you our live video feed from it when you swing by our booth later tonight. We've managed to get to where we are today with a bootstrapped $100,000 budget, but we figured out exactly what it's going to take for us to get to market. We even know every milestone along the way and how much each one of those is going to cost. And that's why we're proud to announce today the opening of our $1.5 million seed round, where the first tranche of $750,000 will allow us to complete product development, conduct extensive preclinical animal trials, and file PCTs on our intellectual property. I'm Michael Phillips, co-founder of Vena Medical. We're looking for like-minded investors and interventional physicians to help us make intravascular procedures faster, easier, and safer, so your loved ones don't have to go through what mine did. Thank you. Winnie the Pooh.
I'm Henry Justino with Polyvascular, and our aim is to transform the care of children with congenital heart disease by developing an entirely new generation of valves made of medical-grade polymer. The most commonly used valve is a human cadaveric valve. Our body's immune system really targets this tissue and destroys the valve, sometimes very rapidly. The valve we've designed is entirely devoid of any biologic tissues. Our approach would allow us to deliver these valves in a minimally invasive fashion that can last over 200 million cycles and even grow with the child. We saw a gap in the care of children with congenital heart disease, and we said, let's roll up our sleeves and do something about it. Congenital heart disease, it's the most common of all birth defects and the #1 cause of infant mortality in the developed world. In fact, twice as many children die from congenital heart disease than all childhood cancers combined. For some kids, a one-time procedure can fix the heart problem, but for others, repeat open heart surgery is necessary throughout their lives. This is where we aim to make a change. In the normal heart, on the left, the pulmonary valve is well formed. On the right, a heart defect that has a valve that is either tiny or even completely absent. A child born with this type of heart defect will require open heart surgery in the first few months of life to give him or her the very first of many replacement heart valves throughout their lives. Would you believe that to this day, the most commonly used valve to give to a baby with this kind of heart defect is a human cadaveric valve? That means another child has to die and donate their valve for this child to be able to have open heart surgery. That's the status quo. It hasn't changed in decades, and it's almost unthinkable. And it's mainly because we are unable to manufacture valves small enough and they're durable enough for small children. Now, if this were a complete cure, we may even tolerate this, but it's not. The valves we give these kids are incredibly poorly durable and require repeat replacement, sometimes even within months. So repeat open heart surgery is not the best solution. These patients are put through a lot of pain and agony. It's difficult on families, and it's very costly on the healthcare system. There's already a better way. There are catheter-based valves that we can deliver through the groin, snake it up into the heart, and expand into the diseased heart valve. The problem is that these valves, all of them being made out there, are made of animal-based tissues that are hand-sewn onto a metal frame. That means they're only manufacturable in relatively large sizes, so small kids are completely left out of this innovation. And that's where we come in. At Polyvascular, we've developed an entirely new way of manufacturing heart valves. These are valves made out of a medical-grade polymer, so they can be made in small sizes for babies or large sizes for adults. In fact, our valves can even expand over time to accommodate for a child's growth. And this reduces their need for open heart surgery. This is our valve working in a pulse duplicator, showing it opening and closing. Our valve passes the requirements for durability testing. Our valve is scalable to any size we want. And we're already in preclinical studies in sheep. So this is our valve being prepared on a delivery system. And this delivery system will be advanced through a tiny incision in the groin of a sheep. This is the sheep pulmonary artery. And now this is our valve being expanded in the pulmonary artery using a balloon catheter. And instantly, we have a normally functioning valve. Within hours, the sheep is up and about as if nothing were. And this is the kind of recovery we want to bring to our children as well. Our closest competitor is the Medtronic Melody valve. This is one of those handmade valves out of animal tissues, hand-sewn on a metal frame, and because it's only relatively large size availability, it's only eligible for about 1,000 patients per year. Because we can make valves that are either smaller or larger, we can make valves that target at least 2.5 times as many patients. And yet, that is just our entry point into the market, because our valves can be designed for the tricuspid position, for the aortic position, the mitral position, and we can even tackle other vascular disorders that other valve technologies have not been able to tackle yet. I'm Henry Justino. I'm an interventional pediatric cardiologist right here at Texas Children's Hospital. And what motivated me to get into this is treating these children and seeing the bravery they show and what they have to go through. Kwon-Soo Chun and Dan Harrington are the engineers on the project, and together we're Polyvascular. We've come a long way entirely on grant funds, thanks to our generous supporters at the bottom of the slide. We're currently on a phase 1 NIH STTR grant, and we aim over the next 2 years to form strategic partnerships to take this device to market. But we're going to need your help. It's going to take a village to help these kids. We're going to need investors, regulatory experts, advisory board members, and people to help us with manufacturing and forming strategic partnerships. So, if you're as passionate as we are about fighting congenital heart disease and helping these kids, please come and talk to us after the break. Thank you very much.
I'm Alessandro Biglioli. I'm the CEO of Elsas Biomedical. We are a company doing an ECMO device. We developed a biocompatible coating that basically makes all the blood contacting surfaces much more similar to the inside of the human blood vessels. The coating makes it a game changer. It's really a leap forward. Our device works well with adults, works well with kids. Any doctor we talked to said, we want to try this device. We want to see this device on the market saving lives. Hello, I'm Alessandro Biglioli. I'm the CEO of Elsas Biomedical, and our company does an ECMO device. So what does ECMO stand for? It stands for extracorporeal membrane oxygenation. So it's basically an artificial lung, an artificial heart that is external to the patient and takes some of the load out of the cardiovascular and respiratory system. In severely ill patients like Michael, for example, from Toronto, 29 years old, 3 months on ECMO, waiting for a transplant, and he would not be alive if it wasn't for ECMO. And like him, there are a lot of other patients that come out of emergency or trauma situations, post-surgery, pediatric patients like premature babies, and respiratory patients under COPD or complications from the flu. So why is not used more widely? The problem is that ECMO has some serious issues, is very invasive, and has three main problems, which are the use of blood thinners. Doctors need to give ECMO patients very heavy doses of blood thinners that come with severe side effects. Versatility. Patients go from premature babies to elderly patients. Body sizes are different, diseases are different. And then transportation. In these slides, you can see on the left a patient being transported inside a military plane. You can see probably the feet. And then a patient deambulating inside a hospital ward under ECMO. So we decided to tackle these issues. And how did we do it? In terms of blood thinners, we developed a biocompatible coating that we apply to all the blood contacting surfaces and basically makes them more similar to the inside of the human blood vessels. In terms of versatility, our system was developed specifically for ECMO from the start. So it's not an adaptation of a cardiovascular technology that is used, for example, in cardiac surgery. And in terms of transportation, you can see the device in my hand. So it can be put patient's bedside, and it creates the ability for doctors to move the patients and for patients to have a better quality of life while under ECMO. So the benefits for our stakeholders, the main one is basically better outcomes that everybody, of course, is self-evident, everybody likes it. But what does that mean? For example, for payers, that means that you can keep the patients less in the intensive care unit. And this is very important because ECMO, the main cost, is personnel, because these patients need to be monitored 24/7. So since it's a long-term therapy, patients can stay up to 9 months under ECMO. You're going to cut the cost of an ECMO therapy to the hospital, which in the end is the one who's going to pay. So how we deliver on that? Our timeline calls for clinical approvals in 1 year, sales in 1.5 years, and break even in 2 years. Our product is basically preclinical. But to deliver on this, you need to have a very strong team. I look at our slide and I say, man, we are an old team. But in reality, the thing is that we are very experienced. And we have been involved in cardiovascular startups before, all of us, and we work together, some of us, in many of those companies. So it's a proven team with a proven track record of getting a product from design to market. So talking about market, right now there are 75,000 patients worldwide. So it's a worldwide product. It's in exponential growth because of an aging population and the fact that doctors are starting to use ECMO for very different pathologies. In terms of value, the market right now is about $1.5 billion worldwide, and there are projections to go to $20 billion in 10 years. But what is interesting for us is this. The market is dominated by one company called Maquet out of Germany. They have about 80% of the market. There are some other legacy systems with smaller shares, and then a lot of small companies. But no effective solutions to the current ECMO issues. For us, this means that the market is ready for disruption, which means that we want to deliver that. So to do that, we need money, we are raising capital, we need clinical cooperations, and we need a joint venture with players in the field. So we are Elsas, we are saving lives one ECMO at a time. Thank you.
My name is Jake Kriegel. I'm CEO of Alleviate Medical. The medical device that we're developing is a minimally invasive transcatheter system targeting congestive heart failure. One of the reasons why it's so hard to treat is that it's many different conditions that are all kind of converging around this elevated left atrial pressure. We come in through a 4mm puncture in the groin and deliver our device up into the heart, where an expandable blade is used to create a precise connection to join the left and the right atrium. And the key here is that we don't leave anything behind in the heart. That's a major advantage that can really change the treatment landscape for this disease.
It's tearing up my heart when I'm with you, but when we are apart, I feel
Most likely, everyone in this room knows someone or has themselves been affected by congestive heart failure. This is an incredibly debilitating condition that affects about 6 million patients in the United States, and the problem is growing. As a cardiac surgery fellow, I took care of hundreds of patients suffering from this disease and was really frustrated by how little we had to offer them to actually improve their quality of life. My name is Jacob Kriegel. I'm CEO of Alleviate Medical, where our mission is to lift the burden of congestive heart failure. So what is this disease? What is this condition? So these patients have a weakening of their heart muscle, whose job is to pump blood throughout the body. And as that pump begins to fail, pressure builds up in the heart, in the left atrium. That left atrial pressure backs up into the lungs, leads to fluid accumulation, severe symptoms of shortness of breath, and it sends patients into the hospital multiple times every year. And right now, we try to treat this condition using medications that have been around since the 1960s called diuretics or water pills that try to target the problem here by lowering the amount of fluid in the body. And in many cases, these drugs are just totally ineffective at relieving symptoms or keeping people out of the hospital. So we believe that the key to this disease and the key driver of these patients' symptoms is actually this elevated left atrial pressure, one step before the fluid even has a chance to accumulate. So we see targeting this left atrial pressure as a novel therapeutic approach. And there's two reasons why we think this. The first is you've probably heard of people that are born with holes in their heart. And usually we're talking about a hole that connects the upper two chambers, the left atrium to the right atrium. And what we're learning is that these patients are actually protected from many of the symptoms of congestive heart failure. And what seems to be happening is they have a depressurization of the left atrium into the right atrium. The second piece of evidence comes from two of our competitor companies that are developing implantable metal stents that are left behind in the walls of the heart and artificially create this passageway joining the left to the right atrium. These companies have begun to show very promising clinical benefit. And this is what those devices look like. As I said, they're implantable devices left behind in the wall of the heart. And while they're showing very promising benefit, we know that devices left behind in the heart have significant risks: implantation failure, blood clots, and long-term tissue erosion or stroke. At Alleviate, we're developing a novel device that achieves the same physiological benefit without a cardiac implant. And we do that through a 4mm puncture in the groin under X-ray guidance. The device is advanced up into the heart, where an expandable tensioner and an expandable metal blade are deployed and used to create a precise connection joining the left and the right atrium. The tissue and the entire system are removed from the body, and this is a single-use disposable device that results in instantaneous left atrial decompression, and we think it's going to have really dramatic clinical benefits. And as I said, this is a huge problem. We estimate this device is eligible for about 500,000 patients every year, and that assumes that around 23% of all patients would get eligibility for it. The pricing and reimbursement strategy is such that it's really economically attractive for all of the key stakeholders, with savings for the payers, a new revenue stream for hospitals, and high gross margins on the device, all while accessing a $5 billion total addressable market. We just completed our first live animal study here at Houston Methodist, and we are starting our seed fundraising, and we're so appreciative to the TMC Fund for starting us off on a great foot, raising this $1.5 million seed to finalize our device design, and we anticipate FDA clearance in 2020. We have a really strong team working on this. We were brought together as part of the TMC Biodesign Fellowship, just on the other side of that mystery curtain, and we've done a tremendous amount of development in the past year. And collectively, we have over 30 years of experience bringing cardiovascular devices from concept through prototyping, design, all the way to 510(k) clearance. We've also put together a really strong team of advisors from within and outside the Texas Medical Center community on the clinical, IP, engineering, and regulatory side. We've won a number of business plan competitions here and nationally and been a part of a number of prestigious accelerators, and we're only just getting started. So we're looking today for help with our manufacturing, clinical partners, as well as regulatory and reimbursement advice. So if you're interested in helping us lift the burden of heart failure, we'd love to talk to you after. Thank you.
My name is Xingyu Sheng. I'm co-founder and chief operating officer at Navi Medical Technologies. At Navi, we are creating the NeoNav. The NeoNav provides accurate localization of the umbilical venous catheter tip. We have a proprietary algorithm to analyze the patient's intravessel signals. The current standard of neonatal care is inserting a catheter blindly into the patient, and this results in a 40% misplacement rate. We think that this number is far too high, and we really want to improve the current standard of neonatal care. United States, around 4 million babies are born each year, and many of you here are parents and would know that having a baby is usually a time for joy and happiness, but not all babies are so lucky. Many are born sick or premature and require urgent clinical care just to stay alive. Delivery of vital drugs and nutrients through central lines is crucial for these patients. An example is an umbilical venous catheter, which is introduced into the patient's umbilical vein, and this catheter is navigated to a very specific location into the patient's body. The current technique of confirming this catheter location is using an X-ray, and this is all done post-procedure. But what if I told you around 40% of these catheters are misplaced due to no accurate real-time feedback, and around 50% of correctly placed catheters migrate to a suboptimal location? This means that not only the procedure has to be repeated all over again, but it also causes severe complications to the patient, including damage to the liver, to the heart, and these complications can be fatal. How would you feel if you were a parent of one of these babies? That's why at Navi, we're creating the NeoNav. It's a medical device accessory designed to provide accurate catheter tip localization in real time to improve catheter placement. The NeoNav works a bit like a car's parking sensor, but for catheters. Our proprietary algorithm analyzes the patient's ECG signals to infer the location of the catheter tip in real time. Our solution will be used during the procedure to improve catheter placement and can be used post-procedure to detect for catheter migration. The NeoNav is quicker than an X-ray and easier than an ultrasound. Our solution will be improving patient outcomes by reducing X-ray exposure and reducing the risk of complications for these procedures. Our solution will be improving clinical efficiency by reducing the procedure time for busy clinical staff, and we will be reducing legal risks for hospital malpractice. We will be selling our hardware unit at a subsidized cost to hospitals, and we will be working closely with hospitals to develop a tailored software subscription based on their individual characteristics, which include the number of procedures and also the number of beds. We will start by solving problems in UVC misplacement and migration in critical care NICUs. And next, importantly, we will scale our technology to provide other solutions for other vascular access procedures. And importantly, we will be scaling to serve a number of other customer segments in the future. There are over 1 million misplaced or migrated lines in neonates, and based on the average cost of these, this is a total addressable market of $650 million per year. This is a growing market and has large potential in developing regions. Our team has strong backgrounds in business, in biomedical engineering, and our chief medical officer is a senior neonatologist with over 30 years caring for newborns. In the next 12 months, we will be gathering clinical data to further refine our algorithm and to develop a clinical-ready prototype. In fact, just recently, we secured a letter of interest from a leading US NICU to perform a pilot clinical study, and we were very proud of this validation. To get us through product development, we are seeking to raise $1 million in seed funding, and we are an Australian company, which means that we have the potential for one-for-one matching from the Australian government. This essentially doubles any investment that we make non-dilutively and reduces risk significantly. We are also looking for introductions to key opinion leaders across US NICUs and also for advisors to join our team. My name is Xing. I'm from Navi Medical Technologies. Please join us to create a new standard in neonatal care. Thank you.
My name is John with Accela. What we do is use light to accelerate post-surgical healing. It is safe, it is side effect free. It actually deals with multiple things at the same time, right? Your pain, your swelling, your bruising. With total knee replacement surgery, total recovery takes 90 days or more. With our solution, our patient was able to achieve the benchmark in 28 days. We have decided to move the company here to set up and build a team, and we are now a proud Houston company.
Years ago, I had a hernia repair. The surgery was successful, but the recovery was slow. I developed complications during a slow recovery with severe pain that lasted for weeks. That experience has shown me the importance of post-surgical recovery and an opportunity to make a difference. Because there are more than 230 million people around the world and 48 million people around the US recovering from surgery each year. Prolonged recovery increased the chance of complication as well as pain. Is there a way that can simultaneously improve healing and pain? We at Accela have discovered a solution that can do both. Accela is transforming the post-surgical recovery with light by focusing the light to the surgical area that can simultaneously improve healing, minimize scars, and reduce pain. This is a product that is for abdominal surgery, and now you may be asking, how does light affect healing and pain? It is based on the science of photomedicine. Thousands of publications, including those from Harvard Medical School, has demonstrated the light through mitochondria can reduce pain and improve healing, cell functions, and also circulation to the area. Our team has conducted multiple clinical pilots, including one shown here that after her first C-section, she had significant scarring and pain. But using our device after her second C-section, she healed faster with much less pain and much less scarring. The early result has attracted the attention of American College of OBGYN, or ACOG. We invited our investigator to present the findings at their annual conference. Additionally, we have 3 IRB studies around the country, and more are planned in the US, especially in Texas. With those IRB studies underway, we now are targeting our 2 main milestones in 2018. FDA 510(k) clearance and market launch. We will launch in the US a $700 million opportunity with combined 3 million procedures. Our initial focus will be on cash-based cosmetic surgery market, while at the same time accumulating data for third-party reimbursement. The global market is 10 times larger, and we plan to go international by 2020. Our long-term competitive advantage are at least with these 2 elements. One is we have a deep product line with protection from our IP, and number 2, our unwavering commitment for the outstanding customer support. Our current team possesses 50 years of clinical experience because we recognize the importance of early clinical input to an effective solution. As we launch the product, we're adding teams in this field of sales and marketing and operation right here in Houston. We're raising $5 million in support of our effort. This round will take us through profitability and also grow shareholder value by 5 times. We have come a long way, but the surgical outcome, to improve that surgical outcome as a journey, has just started. Join us. Together we can help millions of patients to recover at the speed of light. Thank you. Thanks to TMC and JLab for your support in our journey. Thank you.
My name is Daniel Weisfeld. Our company is Resthetics, and we convert waste anesthesia into a safe, renewable resource. We've created a device that captures waste anesthetic gases from hospital operating rooms. We can take that reclaimed gas and manufacture a safe, pure, generic anesthetic that can be sold back into the market. Right now, we are awaiting third-party validation from a research institute, as well as placing our first prototype in a fully functioning operating room at the University of Houston. And so we're just absolutely ecstatic and thrilled to be a part of this cohort. Always been fascinated with the idea of a circular economy, taking waste from an industry and creating an entirely new reusable product for sale. Resthetics is a way of eliminating the unnecessary exposure to harmful anesthetic gases. Our device captures waste anesthetic gases from hospital operating rooms, and from that captured waste, we manufacture a safe, reusable, generic anesthetic. Over prolonged exposure can cause serious health effects, and these gases are nearly 4,000 times more damaging to the environment than carbon emissions alone. In 2015, there were 2.7 million liters of anesthetic gases exhausted from US hospital operating rooms alone. These same hospitals spent $1.5 billion on those wasted gases. In the operating room, when a patient's administered anesthetic gas, their body only metabolizes about 5% of those gases. The majority of them travel through the hospital's exhaust system and end up in the atmosphere. However, trace amounts of them even find their way back into the same operating room that your doctor's performing surgery in. Our device will go in line with the already used exhaust system, where we can capture these gases in their purest form closest to the source. The underlying patented technology to our device is an organic compound that is selective to fluorinated molecules. Not only can we absorb these three main fluorinated anesthetics used today, we can also selectively desorb them through a simple difference in temperatures. Our total addressable market is $1.5 billion for US hospital operating rooms alone. We've identified the Texas Medical Center as a $16 million beachhead market. We will then expand throughout Texas, and after Texas, we'll move to California, because California has passed legislation that calls for a reduction in these hydrofluorocarbon emissions. Our unit economics are simple. It costs Resthetics about $18.50 to reclaim 1 liter of anesthetic gas. We aim to sell this liter back to the hospitals at a $400 a liter price point. However, they're currently spending $600 roughly on this same liter of gas. This creates a 33% cost savings to the hospital and an astonishing 95% profit margin for Resthetics. We currently find ourselves here at the TMCx Accelerator, and we couldn't be more humbled for this experience. We've previously raised non-dilutive funding through entities such as the National Science Foundation, the University of Houston, and VentureWell. We've attended numerous business plan competitions and conferences such as the Rice Business Plan Competition and eMERGE Americas in Miami, Florida. And we've obtained letters of interest from both Baylor College of Medicine and the Houston Methodist Hospital System. We currently have 2 competitors in the market. One is anesthetic gas reclamation. They've created a very bulky unit that is a significant expense to the hospitals. The other is DeltaZorb, Blue Zone Technologies, a Canadian-based company. However, their underlying technology is not selective to fluorinated anesthetics. Our device, however, and our technology is selective only to the fluorinated molecules, and with our business model, we will provide our canisters to these hospitals for free. Our current path to market, we've previously raised $55,000 as stated in non-dilutive funding. This has gone towards prototyping, third-party validation, and for our initial pilot study at the University of Houston. We will next raise a $1.5 million round, which will help us with manufacturing, quality management systems, FDA regulation, as well as being able to service a full-size hospital. My name is Daniel Weisfeld, CEO of Resthetics, and collectively our team has backgrounds in business development, chemistry, clinical research, and a multitude of different engineering backgrounds. We have a fantastic board of advisors from world-renowned chemists, anesthesiologists, chemical consultants, as well as seasoned entrepreneurs with successful exits in the healthcare industry specifically. Our next steps, we are looking for early adopters that recognize this as an issue in the healthcare industry, strategic partnerships with individuals that may align with our missions and visions, and our next hire will be someone in the senior business development that has years of experience in healthcare. My name is Daniel Weisfeld. Again, I'm CEO of Resthetics, and we are the future of anesthetic recycling. If you or anybody you know may be interested in what we're working on, I invite you to come visit our table afterwards, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Eventually, they're going to get my walk-up music right. We'll see. All right, so what did I tell you? Was that pretty good for the first 8 companies? What do you think? How about a round of applause for them? Quality, right? It's pretty solid. And also, this is the first time ever, right? This is big. It's actually on time. They finished on time, and they all stuck to 4 minutes. Amazing. So we got a break now, 15 minutes. Refreshments are over there for you guys. The companies are all at their booths if you want to get a little chit-chat in right where we go, and then we'll call you back. We got some announcements right when we come back from the break, so you don't want to miss those. And also, we got another 10 companies in the second half of the program. So thank you all very much. Come back in about 15 minutes, all right?